JC and the Breakfast Club here on 103.3 KLOU. As you probably have figured out, I'm JC.
Driving auto parts, I listened to the radio all morning long, and when 10 o'clock came around and JC, you know, the Breakfast Club, or actually it was the Morning Zoo at the time, went off the air at 10 o'clock, I was looking for something else to listen to. My day was a downer from that point on. I really got a feel for what it would be like to do that just by listening to him. And I made it a point to get into this business. And one of the first things I wanted to do was work with JC.
I would venture a guess that JC would agree with this, that I think he would say it's probably better to have somebody have some strong opinion of you either way, like they really like what you do, or maybe they don't like you, as opposed to someone having no strong feeling about you any way at all. It's just, I mean, there are 40 plus radio signals in the St. Louis market. And as a result, there are 40 plus morning shows. And once you go beyond a handful, you'd be hard-pressed to name some of the folks who do mornings on some of these radio stations.
JC Corkran plays with himself mornings, 5:30 to 9:30 here on 103.3 KLOU.
I'm so embarrassed.
And what JC taught me, and guys like me, is that morning talent and talent, good talent, people that are going to go out there and get the ratings and really enjoy that stage, are not like the rest of us. JC, Stephen D.C., Guy Phillips, guys, I love you all, but you're not normal human beings. You're all different, and that's what makes you entertaining.
When my dad gets on the radio, he sounds kind of strange.
He's been in radio for a lifetime, and we all know that if we've read his book. I think his first interview happened when he was like 5 years old, when he went down to some guys in Chicago. Although I do think 47 or 48, however old he is a little young for a Lifetime Achievement Award. I hope he has a lot more life left than just these 47 years. I always think that Lifetime Achievement Awards should be given to somebody in their 70s, but I guess if you look at him, he kind of looks like he's in his 70s, so.
He likes me. He really likes me.
The sound of Big Sigh, Cyril Colcatronis, currently residing in the Missouri State Home for the Criminally Insane in Fulton, Missouri, but it didn't stop him from recording this #1 hit song, Going to Las Vegas, da 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 da.
He's always working, trying to do the better show.
He's gone through a number of radio stations. He's kind of like Bill Clinton in a way when you think about it, because he gets into his situations, and normally when he leaves the radio station, it's like, you know, they don't usually have a going away party for him, you know, and invite him for testimonies and stuff. Normally doesn't happen, at least when I've been around. But he's beyond a cat. Forget 9 lives, he's got 90 lives. They just keep coming back. In fact, I've often wondered, you know, he'll get into lawsuits with former managers. Lawsuits, thank you very much, where the manager from another station sued him. We won't mention any names, Karen Carroll, where sued him, and a number of years later, hires him again, hires him back.
Ooh-wee. Bob Hyland would be turning in his grave.
We walk into our seats, and I hear people start to yell at us. They're just yelling things, and then people are, you know, we're sitting down, and people are throwing things at us, and they're you know, wadded up cups and peanuts, and I'm just sitting there, and I just turned to him. I said, "Is this what it's like to go to the ball game with you?" And he said, "Yep, that's what happens." And people are just, you know, they have real strong feelings about him.
Because people like people who are objective and tell the truth. And in radio, that hurts you more than that helps you. And JC has always told the truth. And I, for one, appreciate that. I've worked for several radio stations, and it just seems like the guys who tell the truth are the ones who are always getting fired. Not that JC's ever been fired, but no, he just tells the truth, and he's honest. And I, for one, totally appreciate that in him.
So this guy calls in, and I guess, yeah, he and JC got into it on the air, but JC had no idea that the tape was rolling and everybody could hear him throughout St. Louis. So he's talking about, you know, yada, 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 what he's going to do to this guy, and I'll put you in a body bag, you know. This is all on the air. And I'm like, great, we just lost to the 49ers for the 100th straight time, and I got to go talk about it, and look what you did to our audience. Now they're really mad.
I'm all done.
Sometimes he'd come in with his guitar, and he'd play the guitar, and he'd sing and act goofy, and by himself, he was really good. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, this guy is not only good in a group of people, but he's also good by himself. And you know, that's not an easy thing, to be good in both settings. And you know, he is good in that way. And as a team member, you know, Corcoran's he's just a really talented guy. He makes everybody he works with better. There's no doubt about that.
One of the attributes of the kind of show he does is that there's virtually nothing backstage. And whatever is happening in the studio, or in my case, in the studio or on the phone, that becomes part of the show. So if there's a particular funny thing that happens, the people are going to be hearing it. It's not, there's no real way to reveal that because it's already been broadcast.
I'm not telling.
In all seriousness, I think the really cool thing about JC, and I think the attractive thing about him, and I think the reason he really has kept on to all those listeners, is that JC is sincere. And JC really, when he talks to you, he tells you something, you can tell that he really believes it. And I think that's probably one of the core elements of his personality that it makes him so attractive. It's got to be, because there's really nothing else.
Are you single?
No, I'm married.
Oh.
Are you making me
And
an
you
offer?
call it, no.
JC was very instrumental in exposing the films in St. Louis and working with the studios to elevate the St. Louis market from what we call the B market, where we got the B-rated talent, to come into St. Louis. He was very instrumental in elevating the St. Louis market, where we eventually got A market talent to come here. So he's a smart, bright, very astute about the film industry in general, and that was reflected in all of his interviews.
I'd like to personally thank the producers of this film for wasting 2 hours of my life, and I can only hope that they eventually get the psychiatric treatment they apparently so desperately require. JC Corkran, News 4, St. Louis.
The JC that you hear on the radio and the JC that is every day intersect a lot, but they are still two different people, and he's just worked really hard. No one works harder. We always joke and say he's the hardest working man in show business, haha, but he is. I mean, he is dedicated to his craft. We like to call him Mr. 24/7. He loves this. He's wanted to do this since he was 6 years old and pursued his dream, and 16 going on 17 years here in St. Louis. He has achieved a lot. He's written a book, interviewed countless movie stars, but again, just the day-to-day show. And when we go to the phones and talk to the callers, it's like we're their family, we're their friends, and he just deserves to be applauded for that.
Everything I know about radio actually has come from working with JC. The guy is a consummate professional, and I heard a lot about his reputation previous to working with him and was a little wary of doing so, but he's been great. He really challenges me in terms of what I do, and being in the business for as long as he has, there's not much he doesn't know about.
All right, we have to go. Dana's in here next. Smash this afternoon at 2. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye!
Oh, ain't this a bunch of horse shit?
JC came to St. Louis at a time when morning radio was getting kind of stale. We had a world-famous rock and roll radio station in KC95. Everybody in the country today knows that radio station. It was sitting at a 5-6 share when I came to take it over in '84. We were looking for a morning zoo type show, a crazy, zany, wacky show that was unlike what KC was used to doing, and we found JC Corkran. And we brought him to town from Buffalo. And I had no idea what I was in for. I knew what I wanted to be in for. I was 31 years old, and I had to deal with your stuff. That's working with JC is where I learned that an attorney could walk up to me and tell me that I didn't know anything about what I was doing in radio. Does any managers in here relate to that? Jeff Gershman, it's Gershman, right? Gershwin up there. I mean, JC made it possible for me to meet the FBI up close and personal. And I think the joke there was that you were talking about Jodie Foster and Hinckley. Was it David Hinckley? When he shot Ronald Reagan. And JC got on the air and he said, you know what? I'd shoot the president to meet Jodie Foster. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was in our lobby, interviewing JC Corkran. JC taught me how to negotiate a contract through the newspaper. Every day, we threw him off the air. Every day I got a phone call and I would give the newspaper a message and they would print that message. The next day I'd get a call from JC Corkran or he'd reply to Eric Mink and it would show up in the Post-Dispatch. I haven't seen anything like it since. It was a fantastic time and it was only 2 years of my life and it felt like 10 years. JC made it possible for me to meet probably first the Valley Park Police Department. Remember that? And there are probably stories that I can't remember, but the one thing that JC Corkran did for me is he made me ready to deal with people like Stephen D.C. And he got me ready to deal with guys like Smash, who I also brought to town, and stayed. And we're glad. It was a great time. We took that radio station for those of you who are new to radio, and I see a lot of young people here, and I hate talking like that because I don't feel that old, but the fact of the matter is we took KSHE in those years with JC Corkran in the morning to a 14-1 share. It's the highest rating I can think of on the FM dial. It was a fantastic time. JC, congratulations. I'm going to move back to the script here. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to JC Corkran. On behalf of St. Louis, we thank you for your many years of service to our community and the radio industry. Come on up. Congratulations, bud.
Thank you. Thank you. Why don't you hold that for a while, okay? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, sit down. We have morning shows to do tomorrow. Thanks, John Beck, for having such a great memory. All right. By the way, now that the video equipment is no longer being used, can we put that tape back in and catch the final episode of Temptation Island? Check it out here. Well, when something like this happens to you, I believe that you should get up on stage and say something. I think you should say something that people will remember, so I'm going to try and do that here tonight. About the only thing I'm worse at handling other than criticism is adulation, so here we go. I never thought that my name would ever be considered for an award like this. Then last year I heard they gave it to Jim White, and then I said, well, Christ, I want one now. The Lifetime Achievement Award, as Judy Martin, my former producer, said, that's supposed to be something you get when you're old. And then I remembered, I am old. So I'm old, and have I learned anything? Well, let's see. Chances are, if you think you know something about me and you haven't worked with me, it's probably wrong. I have several of you in this room to thank for that, by the way, including some people about 3 blocks to the west of here. A year ago at this time, I'd been off the air for a year and a half. My marriage had broken up. I was about out of money, and I thought I might be forced to move to another city, even though I had put 16 years of time and effort into this market. A year later, here I am graciously accepting this award, and I don't know if this means that this business is weird, if it means life is weird, or if it just means I'm weird. I have nothing to blame, by the way, for my bad behavior. No drugs, no booze, nothing like that. My addiction was the pursuit of perfection, and it had almost as devastating results. I'm happy to report that I think I'm cured of that pursuit, by the way. We've always done our show with some pretty simple concepts in mind. Be funny whenever you can. Be original whenever you can. Don't use the same standards as everyone else in the market. Don't concentrate on doing good radio. Do good entertainment. Laugh when it's funny, not just to fill the space. Unless, of course, John Butler from KMOX shows up with some of his original material. As important as it is to make people laugh, it's really important to make them smile. Some thank yous. I want to thank the people at the Salvation Army. Being able to work with them has been one of the greatest gifts I have ever received. Jeff Gershman and Eric Mink, I'm going to put them together because they're kind of like the big brothers that I never had. If you think I've done some stupid things in 17 years, you have no idea how many more stupid things I would have done had it not been for the good graces of Jeff Gershman and Eric Mink, who talked me out of them. Karen Kelly, my producer and co-host, what I have put this poor woman through in my usually misguided attempts at continuing to stretch, to push boundaries, never to become complacent. I've often unintentionally created a very static environment that can't always be much fun to work in, but we do, and I thank her for her patience and understanding. To Jeff Gershman and Eric Mink and Karen Kelly, I say a heartfelt thank you, and I love you three guys. I've had the opportunity to work with and become friends with people like John Hewlett and Judy Martin and Everett Marshall and John Canavera, Mike Wheeler, Lee Clear, John Beck, Mark Close, Vic Porcelli, Brian McKenna, Prince Andrew, Tim Gilbert, Lance Hildebrand, Greg Hewitt, the other people that you saw on the video. Thanks to everyone who hired me over the course of the last 17 years except one. Dorsey! The old saying is, don't let the assholes get you down. For a long time, I did. And now I try not to. I confess to you that I am a work in progress. Thanks to Jen Leahy, the March of Dimes, everyone who recommended me for this award, everyone who voted for me. 5 or 6 years ago, my dad, who will turn 80 next year, retired to a tiny little community on a lake miles from any sort of major population center in western Wisconsin. And he tells his friends about this son that he has down in St. Louis who's done all this stuff. You know, like something like 200 trips to New York and Los Angeles combined, doing interviews with movie stars. And he's been kissed by Drew Barrymore, and he's done shows from Moscow and London, and shows with Bob Costas, and he's been on national TV. And he flew a banner over Busch Stadium saying the Mets are pond scum. And I'm sure that they just think up there that he's some sort of crazy old man. And when I think about my dad up there in Wisconsin, those are the days, even with all the crap that comes along with it, that I can't help but think, wow, this job is pretty cool, isn't it? Thank you, everyone, very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.